Chapter 11. My Junior Year. My junior year provides another example that showcases the importance of networking, acting as if you belong, and not caring about the opinions of others. The weekend before my junior year began, I paid $180 to see and hear Dr. Eric Thomas, more famously known as E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, give a speech in Indianapolis, Indiana. The event was only a 90-minute drive, and E.T. was the man I listened to every day on my quest to make my high school basketball team. Although I was a top-tier collegiate athlete, I was not as successful as I wanted to be in other life endeavors. I was so hyped to see E.T. that I arrived an hour before the session I paid for was scheduled to start. During this idle time, I just so happened to waltz into the VIP session, which had just ended. This was the room of people who spent $1,000 to have a private and catered session with E.T. As I walked around the room, I was treated as if I fully belonged. So what did I do? I went with the flow and eventually shook E.T.'s hand. Afterward, I met and spoke with an audience member named Sharif Martin. Sharif introduced himself as a personal fitness trainer and brand owner who lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. Our conversation and synergies led him to gifting me with his event VIP wristband. This allowed me to sit in the very front of the main speaking session. Weeks later, I visited Sharif's studio and he gave me one of his branded shirts while also letting me train at his facility. Now, back to the story. When I arrived back home in Cincinnati, my family laughed at me and sarcastically said things like, "So you paid almost $200 to go listen to a guy talk?" I reacted like the typical teenager by getting upset and leaving. My father noticed this and called me to vocalize that they were just playing. He also said that if going to hear E.T. speak would help me accomplish my goals, then it was well worth it and it does not matter what anyone else thought. My first apartment. Miami University has a money-grabbing rule that students must live in dorms on campus for their first 2 years. My junior year is when I was allowed to move off campus. I found an apartment with 4 bedrooms and only 1 bathroom, but rent was only $12.50 per occupant per semester. This was a great find in terms of saving money, but in hindsight, it was not worth the stress. I picked the absolute worst housemates ever. I lived with 3 football players, and I am still friends with 2 of them now. The one I no longer interact with was an annoying cancer. All he did was smoke weed, play video games, and depend on his mom to pay his portion of the bills. The constant trashing and smell of weed drove me insane. I learned the hard lesson that just because people are your friends does not mean you should live with them. The stress I endured trickled over into the crumbling of my romantic relationship at the time. It also affected my body and athletic performance as I gained weight, lost speed, and racked up on injuries. My heightened level of stress and injuries led to my coach and me deciding to use the option of athletically redshirting my junior year. This option meant I would not travel or participate in competitions with the team during my junior year, but I would still have 2 more years of eligibility afterwards. Dear Kenny, on the journey of achieving what you want, there are habits, things, and people you will have to cut off. It sounds harsh, but it is necessary. Some people are unwilling to change, no matter how much you plead with them. How do you know when to cut something off? If anything or anyone gets in the way or takes time away from what you need to do to get what you want. It may or may not have to get cut off 100% or forever. Sometimes these things, habits, and people must be put on a strict limit so they do not take away from your precious energy, time, and money. For example, the reason I cut off my braids at age 12 was that getting my hair done took time from playing basketball on the weekends. One reason I am not fluent in Spanish is that I used the time I could have been inside the house learning from my mother
to instead be outside practicing my basketball skills.
more than anything else. I wanted to be on the basketball team. So I sacrificed wherever it was feasible to achieve my goal. I have even cut ties with women in romantic relationships because of the time and energy they would take away from achieving my goals. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. Trauma, fear, and emotions. There was a time when therapy had the stigma of only psychopaths and serial killers using and needing it. Reluctantly, therapy services have become more accepted and commonly used by the general population. The reality is, we all have experienced some level of trauma in our childhood and adulthood. Also, we each encounter highly stressful situations throughout our lives. The specific topic of trauma is still not talked about enough. Trauma is the response to any deeply distressing or disturbing event that disrupts one's central nervous system. When high levels of stress or mental trauma are not properly released or dealt with, they remain in the mind and body while leading to unhealthy coping mechanisms. This can occur by way of self-sabotage or the abuse of others, whether it is verbally, emotionally, or physically. Examples of this are compulsive unnecessary spending, excessive eating or sleeping, alcohol and drug addictions to take the pain away, and sexual yet toxic relationships. These each bring feelings of temporary pleasure but cause more harm than good. After many failed romantic relationships, I was forced to reflect on my childhood and certain destructive behaviors. My reflection and vocalization of past situations has allowed me to heal from past trauma, overcome fears, and release old emotions of anger and sadness. Before these helpful changes, I was short-tempered and reactionary. After one of my breakups, I felt so sad and depressed that I went to the store and took pictures of Hallmark cards to cheer myself up. Fortunately, since then, I've received direct and indirect help from therapists and psychologists. The direct help came from actual one-to-one private conversations. The indirect help comes from being around friends who have similar experiences and listening to how they persevered in a healthy manner. I also listened to celebrity interviews about how they use therapy and the perspectives they gained from the experience. They each talk about the importance of patience, breathing, positive self-talk, visualization, and body language. Through reflection, I also noticed my tendency to push myself and others to be extremists by immediately giving up bad habits without relapse. The greatest lesson I learned is to be patient with myself and with others. Balance is necessary when expressing patience. Although patience is not an excuse to be lazy, change is easier when it is not rushed or overly forced. I also learned to not waste time trying to change or convince those who want to remain the same or move at their own pace. It is vitally important to always work on yourself first and be the living example others have the option to learn from. Dear Kenny, take your mental health seriously and speak to someone about what is occurring in your mind. I know you spend lots of time earning money or strengthening your body, but your mental health is just as important. If you are in high school, speak with your school counselors and ask if they know of any free therapy services. As a high school graduate, use Google to find therapists, especially ones you can afford or those who accept your insurance. If you are in college, take advantage of the fact that most campuses offer free therapy services. I understand that many students and graduates grew up in households that lack proper guidance or ideal relationship examples from parental figures. Yet, even in seemingly perfect scenarios, students may still witness certain things which negatively scar their subconscious minds and future behavior. This has a major effect on their reality and life perspectives. By reading this, you must realize you now have the power to choose how you respond to the trauma that has occurred in your life. Will you choose to leave it untamed and continue to control you? Or will you choose to heal and learn from it? There are some people who hurt me, and I hurt them in a non physical way. This is in terms of emotions and feelings due to certain actions and words spoken out of anger and ignorance. I have forgiven those who have wronged me, and I have apologized to those whom I have wronged. My advice here is to heighten your emotional intelligence so you learn how to respond properly instead of reacting immaturely. Shout out to the late but great platinum recording artist, Whitney Houston. She had her personal struggles, just like we all do, but she had an amazing voice. The song of hers that I will highlight is entitled, The Greatest Love of All. I recommend that you listen to the entire song and read the lyrics from a reputable source. I want you to focus on and internalize a specific line. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Fear is a natural human thought and reaction, but it should not be the sole or primary force which governs most of our lives and decisions. Ironically, people are afraid to even admit fear is what controls them. Some of the things most of us are afraid of are silence, being alone, public speaking, humiliation, hair loss, and death. In reference to silence and being alone, we fear these things because we relate them to feeling unloved or unwanted. It is okay to be afraid, but this is where courage is necessary to push through the fear. By being courageous and not letting fear stop you, you can become the positive individual you were truly created to be. Those around you will take notice and eventually decide to be courageous for themselves. Here, I will reference the poem by Marianne Williamson entitled Our Deepest Fear, which a character partially quotes in the movie Coach Carter. The first two lines are, Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. I want you to find this poem, read it out loud, and feel the vibrations of the impactful words. Dear Kenny, unapologetically shine your light. This is what you were created to do. By doing so, you will serve as a spark and other people will begin to see the light in themselves. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. The value of internships. An internship provides an opportunity to apply what you have learned in the classroom, real on-the-job training, practical experience, and marketability, networking with experienced interns and associates at the company while gaining professional feedback, an opportunity to increase your professionalism and learn how to conduct yourself in an office setting and at company events, a chance to build your resume and a better chance to gain future employment, an opportunity to figure out what you like and do not like about a specific profession. I mentioned earlier in the book that I got rejected by my dream internship in California. Here, I will elaborate on the scenario. One of my goals for junior year was to obtain an internship, specifically with one of the big four accounting firms, Ernst & Young, in San Diego, California. Big four accounting firms were held in high regard at Miami University and heavily pushed on all business majors. My rejection news came via email shortly after returning to campus after my all-expenses-paid trip for the interviews. I had also told everyone I knew about the opportunity, and everyone agreed that I was essentially guaranteed the position. I was crushed by the rejection because of how badly I wanted the internship, and I knew I would face public embarrassment. I am grateful that my mother advised me to figure out why I was rejected and to move in silence by keeping certain plans quiet. I asked the interviewers for reasons why I was rejected and opted to improve on each aspect. They informed me that I was not chosen for the internship because I did not ask the right questions or showed them what they wanted to see. They wanted to see higher grades, but also proof that I was truly interested in the field of accounting. I also personally reflected on areas where I could have been better. From a professionalism standpoint, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, as I even took a picture of my plate during lunch. It might have been appropriate in a social setting, but an internship committee member might have found it inappropriate in a professional setting. Now, I know that every move I make in a professional setting is being watched and judged. I might have also looked like a kid who had never been anywhere. I should have behaved as if I had been in that type of situation before, even though I truly had not. The week after my rejection, I joined the National Association of Black Accountants, or NABA for short, which allowed me to learn more about the accounting profession from students and graduates who looked like me. A mentor and campus co-founder of the Miami chapter of NABA, Leah Phillips, had previously asked me to join, but I told her I was too busy. It is funny how quickly that changed after my internship rejection. Dear Kenny, people will make time for what is important and needed to get what they desire. Dealing with rejection in any area of life can be difficult, but it teaches you how to be better. Ask yourself, is what I am trying to obtain or enter truly worth it? If it is worth it, then ask, how can I minimize my chances of getting rejected? Do I need more money, more experience, more confidence, more information? If you truly want it, figure out what you need and get to work. Still, you must also realize that not everything or every person is for you, and that you are not for everything or every person. This is a true statement for opportunities as well. Be able to let go. Be grateful for what you have and find where you fit in best. Do not take things too personally. I know anger may arise when things do not go your way or you feel that someone has wronged you. However, there is no one out here with a personal vendetta or mission to make you miserable or ensure that you fail. Dust your shoulders off, grow from every experience, and continue to move forward. All success starts with you. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. While in pursuit of obtaining my goal of solidifying a summer internship, I took the time to do a mock interview as it was required for one of my business classes. During the mock interview, I was told I did well, but needed to be less humble and quiet about my successes. This is where I give you one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. Dear Kenny, people will misuse and abuse the word humble to limit you if you let them. Certain individuals might ask you to be humbler when they hear you talk about your greatness and positive expectations. But when selling yourself in an interview or selling a product or service, you must courageously and confidently state why you are the best. I always challenge people with this question. So it's okay to be super confident in my mind, but as soon as I vocalize how confident I am, now I'm suddenly not humble? That sounds goofy when it is said aloud. When you vocalize how great you are, be sure to back it up as best as you can. If you fail, oh well, that's life. Get back up and try again. In my opinion, the word humble is popularly or connotatively used as do not vocalize your confident self-beliefs. When people say things like, they are too cocky, or they need to be humble, what they are really saying is, they are too confident or too loud for my liking. If you Google search humble, it is defined as having or showing a low estimate of one's own importance. There are situations when you should lower your importance, but not when you are competing, selling yourself as the best, or reassuring your self-esteem. I am not saying to overly brag and be obnoxious, but know your worth and recognize that the word humble is not synonymous with quiet. Ask people what they truly mean when they use the word humble. Do not allow the fear of being labeled cocky to limit your level of self-confidence. Before anyone achieved anything, they needed to think that they could achieve it. Shout out to Ben Phillips, as he agrees with me on the point of there is no such thing as cocky. In my vocabulary and thought process, there is only confidence, doubt, delusion, and deceit. Confidence is to believe in yourself, and it grows with practice and repetition. Doubt is uncertainty or the lack of belief, the opposite of confidence. Delusion is to believe you are better or worse than you truly are. Deceit is inherently knowing the truth, but outwardly expressing the opposite. I have grown my self-belief to a level where I believe I can be, do, and have anything I set my mind to. This level of self-belief has turned into knowing myself on a deeper level and knowing my infinite abilities. Whether someone else agrees with me or not is not a concern of mine. Do your best to not let the opinions of others downplay you, your beliefs, or your self-esteem. In the words of the illustrious Deion Sanders, aka Primetime or Coach Prime, do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurities. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. Leah Phillips previously had an internship with KPMG, which is another Big Four accounting firm, and she still had a solid relationship with their recruiters. She kindly introduced me to them, which allowed me to meet them in person on the morning of the career fair. Our meeting was scheduled to occur at Starbucks, which was an informal setting and much less crowded than a career fair. Let me explain what a career fair is. It is a monstrous gathering of businesses and eager college students handing out resumes in hopes of scheduling job or internship interviews. Imagine thousands of people in suits and blouses packed into one area with Black Friday lines and tons of conversations happening at once. The power of avoiding that scenario was that the KPMG recruiters would be more likely to remember me. I would be the very first student they interacted with before speaking with hundreds of others throughout the day. The night prior to the meeting, thanks to Glenn Tripetta, I wrote and reviewed a list of questions in my Padfolio to ask the recruiters. I am not a coffee fan, and I had never been to Starbucks. Before they closed for the day, I visited Starbucks to ask employees what I should order. They advised me to order a chai tea latte and even let me sample it. I also had multiple copies of my resume printed out because I knew the recruiters would ask to see it. I prepared as much as I could and then got some sleep. I came to the meeting with a smile on my face and dressed in business casual attire. The first two questions were, what do you want to drink? And, may I see your resume? After the recruiter ordered our drinks and scanned my resume, she comically asked, when do you sleep? Her reason for asking stemmed from having an impressive and clear outline of the activities and organizations I was involved in, especially NABA. My resume showcased my ability to juggle responsibilities while also showing my interest in accounting. This was much better than when I interviewed with Ernst & Young a few months prior. As a student athlete and business major, it is a question I just chuckled at. The real answer was that I made sure to get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep because I prioritized. Her next question was, do you have any questions for me? This is when I knew that it was time to shine. I had the questions written down in my Padfolio. If I had no questions, our meeting would have only lasted 5 minutes, and she probably would have chosen someone else to interview for the internship. Because I had those questions, it lasted closer to 40 minutes. I had failed in this part of the interviews before, and I made sure that would never happen again. At the end of our meeting, she was impressed and then asked if I had any more questions. I looked at my notes and realized that I had already asked all of them thanks to memorization. They swiftly moved me into the next phase of obtaining the internship because of my resources and efforts. Thanks to being properly prepared, I decreased my chances of getting rejected. Highly effective interview questions. The questions I will list in this section work wonders, and I offer them to all readers to use and make their own. Some of them were given to me by my mentor and Miami alum, Glenn Trepetta. My mentees and younger sister, Naja, have also used them to impress their interviewers and obtain internships and jobs. 1. What characteristics are you seeking in an ideal candidate? 2. As an intern, what are some ways I can add value to a client engagement? 3. What are some challenges that interns face when entering this role? 4. What changes in the profession, as well as this specific company, have you seen during your career? 5. If I were to randomly select people in the firm, what traits do you think would best describe them? 6. What are some things I can do now to hit the ground running if I am selected? 7. What do you enjoy and dislike when dealing with the client? 8. Bonus question. If you could write a letter to your younger self, what advice would you give? 9. Bonus question. Would you be opposed to scheduling coffee or lunch sometime so we can grow our relationship outside of this interview setting? Dear Kenny, proper preparation is critical to achieving your goals. Write them down and intently focus on them. You can write them every day or write them once and put them somewhere you will see them every day. A great tip I used in college was putting my goal as my phone password. This forced me to think about and type in my goal at least 30 times a day. I wanted to jump 25 feet, and that is exactly what I eventually jumped. I wrote down the internship and travel opportunities I wanted to receive. Then, I went to work to make sure they happened. I did not achieve every single one of my goals, but I came very close. Some goals I even surpassed. Also, realize that your goals may change, but this is not an excuse to not write them down or procrastinate on achieving them. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. After taking a family trip to Atlanta, Georgia, I no longer wanted to intern in San Diego, California. I shifted my goal thanks to the experiences and conversations I had with my cousin, Shaquille Tinsley, who lived in Atlanta at the time. After impressing the lead recruiter in Cincinnati, she gladly introduced me to the lead recruiter in Atlanta. I was scheduled to interview in Atlanta during my spring break, which was perfect timing since I would have class or track meets during other weeks. I asked the Atlanta recruiter if I could fly in a week early to further acclimate myself to the new city. This was a bold ask, but my explanation made sense to them, and they agreed. My track teammate Zuri Davis and I were on the same flight, and her mom allowed me to stay at their house for the first couple of days of my trip. Zuri gave me a grand tour of the city and took me to all her favorite places. For the final days of my trip, my cousin Stormy Johnson allowed me to sleep at her apartment, as she was a student at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia. Those were the precursors to acquiring my first internship. Now, let us dive into the next stages. When I applied to the Atlanta office, I had to explain why I was choosing a city outside of my hometown. I chose to state that my reason was family. Most students would have said, I just really like the city. That type of answer compared to family is laughable. Saying you are moving to a new city because of family holds more weight in the employer's minds. It shows that you really want to be there and are more likely to stay long term. The night before the interview, I went to Walmart and bought a brown watch for $12 and a brown leather padfolio for $10. My dress shoes were brown, and I knew how important details were. During the interview, I was up against two other student applicants who attended the University of Georgia. Things seemed neck and neck until the last interview, which was panel style. The first question was about taxes, and I knew very little about them. Thanks to our seating arrangement, I was the last to respond, and this gave me enough time to think of an answer that would woo the interviewers. I let them know I was quite familiar with taxes because both of my parents worked for the IRS. Each of their heads perked up, and they thought I knew more about the subject than most. Please note that jobs are going to teach you everything you need to know. All you must do is properly get your foot in the door. A few weeks went by, and I received a voicemail from my Atlanta recruiter letting me know I was chosen for the internship. I joyfully called her back to accept the position. This was a huge weight lifted from my back as I direly wanted an internship that aligned with my major and future career. I also wanted it to be paid and give me opportunities to travel. I will be making $25 an hour and be flown to New York and California for free. Dear Kenny, you are being watched and judged at all times. This is true anytime you are in a public setting. Be sure to control the narrative while also being your courageous self. You will be treated based on your actions, achievements, attire, and ability to articulate. From an entire standpoint, you do not have to spend a lot of money to look wealthy. I bought my first neckties from Goodwill for $1 each. I learned how to tie those ties from watching videos on YouTube and practicing for 20 minutes. My father and I purchased all my suit jackets and slacks from JCPenney when they were on sale or on the clearance rack. From an articulation standpoint, you may have to learn to speak formal English. It might seem unnatural at first, but this is not an example of selling out. More appropriate ways to view it are code switching and buying in. How you speak, answer questions, and present ideas speak volumes about you. Study the successful people you want to be like. One way to be perceived more positively is by wearing a suit to class, a restaurant, a shopping mall, or a sporting event. People will see your dapper appearance and mentally associate you with money and success. You will receive compliments and will be more likely to engage in high-level conversations. My college fraternity brothers and I chose to wear suits on campus every Thursday. Each time we did it, we turned many heads, and it honestly felt good to look good. We all form biases based on what we can detect with our five senses. Due to natural bias, when people see one person wearing a suit and another person wearing a tank top and sagging pants, they are highly likely to form two very different opinions on the backgrounds and careers of those persons. You may not be someone who talks constantly or loudly, but when you do talk, make sure you are heard. There are certain environments or situations where it is necessary to talk more, and there are certain people with whom you should talk more. The opposite is true as well. Listening with intent is just as important. Sincerely, Kenny Glenn, success coach and entrepreneur. Graduate school acceptance. This is an area where, once again, my mentor Leah Phillips was instrumental during my college journey. I knew that Leah was in the Master of Accountancy, or MAC program for short, and that she was the only Black person in the program. This was an opportunity for me to take advantage of as well. I knew they wanted and needed more Black students in the MAC program, especially Black student athletes like me. In the spring semester of my junior year, I decided to apply for the Master of Accountancy program. I had the personality and gift of gab to speak with those in charge of accepting students into the program, and I had the undergraduate grades to get me in. Leah was a huge advocate, and she helped me write my application essay. All these factors combined helped me to get accepted into the graduate program only 48 hours later. The funny thing is, I jokingly stated that this would happen on a Snapchat video I privately recorded. My acceptance allowed me to earn dual credits towards both my undergraduate and graduate degrees, which would grant me the opportunity to earn my bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting at the same time. I knew I would need an extra year, whether I earned my master's degree or not. Thankfully, degrees do not have dates. This means if it takes a college student 4 years or 6 years to graduate, the degree only signifies completion, not how long it took to achieve it. My situation was due to my number of credits and the fact I had another year of track and field eligibility. From juggling both academics and athletics, there were some semesters when it was not feasible to take more than 12 or 15 credit hours. To be on pace to graduate from Miami University in 4 years, a student needs a total of 128 credit hours. This equates to an average of 16 credit hours per semester for a 4-year span. For me to catch up in credits, I had to take summer courses and a winter course. I paid for them directly out of my pocket. My message to all readers is to understand that not all athletes are on a full-ride athletic scholarship, especially if the sport is not football or basketball. Of course, I knew student athletes who had full-ride scholarships and were able to have their summer or winter courses paid for. Was I slightly jealous? Yes. But I was not jealous of their strenuous schedule and lack of freedom during their college tenure. They did not have a free ride, as some people like to label it. The better label was work study due to all the demands they had to withstand. My internship experiences. I did not complete much meaningful work in my internship, but I did earn close to $5,000 in 8 weeks. The experience was more about getting to know the culture and the people within the company. I spent most days going to lunch with associates and partners of the firm, all charged on the company's credit card. I worked with 3 other interns in the Atlanta office, and they also had no idea what we were hired to do. Eventually, we figured it out while creating some funny memories. For intern training, the company flew each of us to New Jersey, about 30 minutes away from New York City. This is where we met with over 200 other Black and brown interns from around the country. I am still friends with some of them today. One of the closest friends I made at that training was Brandon Hardy, aka B. Hardy. He was only a freshman in college, but he had swagger, charisma, and an Atlanta accent that made him sound just like the comedian Chris Tucker. Brandon is a confident genius who wore a bow tie every day, and he once had the goal of becoming the president of the United States. His aura has a positive gravitational pull, which he uses to lift the spirits of others. His network is expansive because he can spark meaningful conversations with anyone. He is the youngest of his siblings from the slums of Atlanta. He recognized the negative temptations in his environment and knew he had to become the positive change he wanted to see. Therefore, he took school seriously enough to be rewarded with scholarship opportunities that enabled him to attend the highly prestigious University of Notre Dame. He is now a proud graduate and earns more than 6 figures per year as a top-tier technology salesman. A few weeks after intern training, the company then flew me out to Los Angeles, California. On this trip, I reconnected with some fellow interns I met in New Jersey and new students who will be interning the following summer. Both trips also allowed me to visit family members I had not seen in years. I saw and stayed with aunts, uncles, and cousins who showered me with love and let me know how proud of me they were. My first internship taught me that I did not want to live in Atlanta. Instead, I wanted to return home to Cincinnati. I saw the major benefits of working full-time in Cincinnati after college. I could live with my parents to save money, help my friends with their small businesses, and give back to my alma mater. After my internship in Atlanta concluded, I stayed an extra week in hopes of connecting with Dwight Phillips, as Atlanta was his hometown and city of residence. Dwight Phillips is a long jump legend turned coach. He is the 5th best long jumper of all time, a 5-time world champion, and an Olympic gold medalist. I had met him once before during my freshman year of college at a track meet at the University of Kentucky. Before then, I had no clue who he was, but he gave me and other athletes some autographed batons. On these batons, he wrote his personal best jump of 28 feet, 8 inches. After I saw that, I immediately did more research on him. Fast forward to my junior year of college. I wanted his advice on how to become a better long jumper. I was confident enough to tweet him, and he replied to my tweet with his phone number. Since he was out of the country at the time, our in-person meeting would have to wait. Regardless, I certainly enjoyed my experience in Atlanta that summer. Afterward, I drove back to Ohio to prepare for my quote-unquote senior year of college.